Day 21 of the federal government partial shutdown, now tied with the longest shutdown in U.S. history. It is a complete and utter failure of one of the government's most basic responsibilities, because today, for nearly 1 million Americans, FBI agents and Border Patrol officials, doctors trying to cure diseases, inspectors trying to keep your food safe, today is payday without any pay. 0.00 is the amount federal workers who are either furloughed or still working without compensation are seeing on their paychecks today. This is the paycheck of William Striffler. He's an air traffic controller at Newark Airport in New Jersey. He worked 64 hours this pay period. His wife is pregnant with their first child. It's a baby girl due next week.
This should be one of the happiest moments of our lives. And, we have this hanging over our head, and it's really an unfortunate situation to have to worry about that.
The effects can be felt across the nation. Miami International Airport will begin closing a terminal early because of a shortage of TSA agents. A spokesman for the airport saying that federal screeners are calling in sick at double the normal rate. That's a story first reported by CNN and falsely and frankly immaturely attacked by the spokesman for the Department of Homeland Security and then retweeted by President Trump. Tampa International Airport is starting a food bank for the roughly 700 government employees who work there. And the Washington Post reported on a tip sheet provided for Coast Guard employees to get by without pay. The sheet says they should consider holding a garage sale or babysitting, dog walking, or serving as a mystery shopper. Bankruptcy is a last option, the document advised. And while federal employees, such as William Striffler, work without pay, the elected officials responsible for the shutdown are being paid without work. At 2 p.m. today, the Senate adjourned for the weekend. A short time later, the House adjourned as well. And President Trump had not one sympathetic word today for the employees of the organization he heads, the federal government, getting all those 0.00 checks today. But the president has been tweeting about the reason he will not sign a government spending bill, tweeting in part, quote, "The steel barrier or wall should have been built by previous administrations long ago. They never got it done. I will." CNN's Caitlin Collins at the White House for us now. Caitlin, yesterday the president said he would almost definitely declare a national emergency. It sounds like he's backed off that a bit.
Yeah, he just held an immigration roundtable here at the White House, and he said he's not going to declare a national emergency right now. That seems to reverse days of what the president has said, signaling that he would, in fact, declare a national emergency. And not just his remarks, but also White House aides who have been exploring ways to get funding to build that border wall if he did declare a national emergency. And also the White House legal team prepping a legal defense for if they did do so, since it likely would have gone to court. Now, right now, the president is saying he's not going to declare a national emergency, but Jake, he left room open to do so. President Trump backing off his threat to declare a national emergency to fund his border wall today.
What we're not looking to do right now is national emergency.
The president making that comment during an immigration roundtable at the White House after warnings that he would likely set off a firestorm of critics if he bypassed Congress to build his signature campaign promise, though Trump still maintains he can if he wants to.
I have the absolute right to do it.
Washington is in a deadlock 21 days into the government shutdown, and the White House has started exploring ways to pay for the wall without Congress, after talks with Democrats went nowhere.
The only way you're going to stop it, the only way to stop it, without question, is with a very powerful wall or steel barrier.
Despite warnings Trump could face a lengthy legal battle if he did use his emergency powers, Senator Lindsey Graham urged him to do so after their meeting today, tweeting, "Democrats don't want to make a deal and will never support a border wall. Mr. President, declare a national emergency now. Build a wall now." That comment, despite Graham saying last week a national emergency was a, quote, fallback position. But not all Republicans are on board, including Senator Chuck Grassley, who said the president should not do it. "I think it might be a bad precedent." This as Vice President Mike Pence, who has led shutdown negotiations on Capitol Hill, paid a visit to the Customs and Border Protection headquarters today.
But I also know that we do this in the midst of a partial government shutdown. That's no doubt created anxiety for families that are gathered here today.
Making this pledge to the border agents who aren't getting paid.
This president and this administration will keep fighting to build the wall and give you the resources and reforms you need to do your job. That's my promise.
Now, Jake, the president also called on Democrats to come back and vote, even though there's nothing for them to vote on because the White House and Democrats can't come to an agreement. And the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said he will not bring a vote to the floor unless it's a deal that the president himself has endorsed. Jake.
All right, Caitlin Collins at the White House for us. Thank you so much. My panel's with me. It sounds, Kirsten, like the president is even ramping up the rhetoric. He's backed off maybe a little on the national emergency, but today he called the invasion, he called the situation on the southern border an invasion. It seems like it's getting even more fraught, even more intense.
Yeah, it's really hard to see how this is going to end. I think that he originally didn't want to do this and got pushed into it by Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh, and now he seems to be all in on it because he's not willing to go against his base, despite the fact that a lot of people are suffering, and that, you know, despite all the claims that our economy is so amazing, a lot of Americans still live paycheck to paycheck. And you were just talking about what's happening in Tampa, and that's the truth of a lot of people. So I think that you know, and then I think the second part that's so troubling is that he's making up things about what's happening at the border. There's no invasion. I mean, we were told we were being invaded by a caravan. We were never invaded by a caravan. We were told we were going to get diseases from children, unaccompanied children. We never got diseases from unaccompanied children. So he's just doubling down on this and calling it a crisis when there just is no crisis. It's a crisis he created.
You disagree?
Well, certainly there is a crisis. The problem is that the president is not very good at articulating his point and using factual information. I agree that disease is not a concern, or there's no link between illegal entry and a rising crime. Those are false arguments. But we have over 300,000 people detained at the border last year. That's a large number of people. That's a huge burden for the Border Patrol. We have an incredible increase in asylum petitions. That overburdens administrative immigration judges. And finally, the bulk of opioids are coming through the southern border. If you were to stick to the facts, I think, and use a less toxic narrative, I think he would be in a better position to show that defending the wall is not unreasonable. In fact, a lot of Border Patrol officials and former officials, the former Border Patrol chief under the Obama administration believes in strategic fencing. This should not be a huge debate. The president has made it a debate, a huge debate, because of the way he talks and because he uses some facts that are just not true.
Yeah, no, just to give one point of fact and to offer some clarity here, of the narcotics coming over the southern border, most of them, a majority of them, are coming through legal ports of entry. Through not being smuggled across between fences. That's not to say it's not a problem.
Right.
But a wall wouldn't necessarily solve the problem.
Well, but it overburdens you already have a Border Patrol that is overburdened. If they have also to think of undocumented immigrants or immigrants trying to enter irregularly through other parts of the border, that's a problem.
Okay, Simone?
So I'm still unclear about what the wall would do. And I think the majority of the American people are unclear about what the wall would do, which is why they do not support the building of a wall. I think this talking point about how the border is the Border Patrol agents are overwhelmed and there's an increase in asylum seekers. I want to reiterate, it is not illegal to seek asylum in this country. The way to seek asylum in America is to present yourself at ports of entry. And just a month ago, the Trump administration shut down the busiest port of entry in our hemisphere because they didn't want to process the asylum seekers. And so, yes, there is a crisis at the border, a crisis that the Trump administration created because they did not want to process asylum seekers.
Let me correct you on the law. The law actually allows you, if you're going to petition asylum, to enter not only through ports of entry, through anywhere. It is the Trump administration.
The Trump administration has said you have to enter through ports of entry. So again, it is confusing for folks. And so now we have, today, folks are not getting their paychecks. There are more than a few people in this country that live paycheck to paycheck. The American people do not support the building of this wall. And I think it's time for the Trump administration to take some responsibility and open up the government.
Yeah, I think there's two big questions. Where is the urgency from Congress? Number one, they're gone. They took early Friday off. They're going home, which I think is kind of incredible because I think Speaker Pelosi would have a huge opportunity, given the energy of the freshman class, to stay and camp out over the weekend and say, we're ready to vote. Mitch McConnell, where are you? There's tremendous political opportunity. But then from the White House, where are the specifics? if you want to get something done, I'm still unclear what he wants. The 700-mile wall is not going to happen. He should pick an area, a highly trafficked area, where a fence can make a difference. Use the San Diego double-layered fence as an example of an effective wall that works. Yes, it needs to be repaired in some areas, but he really needs to get specific about what he's asking for. But while everyone's talking past each other, Congress is going home, and Trump doesn't have a clear ask, nothing's going to happen.
But this is only Donald Trump's fault. This is not a both sidesism. Everyone needs to do their part.
Congress has a role.
Congress did their part. Nancy Pelosi passed the Republican
Mitch McConnell
appropriations
shouldn't be
bill.
taking off.
It's Mitch McConnell who we need to hold accountable. It's Donald Trump.